episode of Surviving the Survivor, we bring you the best guests in all of true crime. Don't forget to subscribe and smash that like button. Here's your host, Emmy Award-winning broadcaster, Joel Waldman.
What's up, STS Nation, and welcome to another episode of Surviving the Survivor, the podcast that promises to bring you the very best guests in all of true crime. And today, a show so good, it happens every Friday. Great Scott to True Crime Phil. And as I mentioned last week, we are now using these two big, giant, massive brains for stories that are currently developing, that are of an investigative nature. And sadly, there is yet another out of the Magic Kingdom land, out of Orlando, Florida. And we're going to get into it and dissect it. And the COE pulled some sound. I'm going to have Phil and Scott listen to that sound, and we will get everyone's take on that. A quick reminder, the book is available for pre-order, but what's even more interesting, they're now signed hardcover copies. Carm actually did a little ad for this, and they're at signedsurvivorbook.com, signedsurvivorbook.com, and you can get a custom inscription from Carm, and you can have her curse in that custom inscription or not. You could have her write whatever you want. So there it is. It's out there. Fil and Scott, I hit the gym. I went to my kid's little school thing, and you know what I'm going to do today? I'm going to do something highly intellectual. Education is of the utmost importance. Not only was I at school earlier, but this afternoon, the reason I'm leaving a little early is for an educational experience. And that is going to be taking my kids to a UFC 300 press conference, which is happening in Miami because there's a huge fight here tomorrow night. And right after that, there will be the weigh-ins where the fighters square off. And what better way to educate kids than through the mixed martial arts and crazy young men who get in an octagon and beat each other up? My mother took me to museums. I take my kids to UFC events. Phil, is this a problem? Will my kids have issues as they grow up and develop and become older?
No, I don't think so. It's they're relatively entertaining to watch two men beat the crap out of each other. So, you know.
Yeah, I find it very relaxing. Scott Duffy, you think my kids will be okay?
Yeah, they will be okay.
Yeah, you know, I know you take your children to Philadelphia Phillies games, and I will do the same. Not Phillies games, but perhaps Marlin. I took my son to a Marlins game. He was 3 at the time, and he wanted to leave after maybe 3 pitches. So I'm gonna have to try it again. But yes, that's my plan. Phil and Scott look incredibly thrilled by this. Lejeune Fritz. By the way, just a little inside thing between Phil, Scott, and I. Every time I see a Ferrari in Miami, which is every 4 minutes, I send Phil and Scott a photo. I was running late today, so I couldn't get the next one that I saw, which was a Phil Waters. Would you ever buy a Ferrari? This Ferrari right outside here has a matte black wrap around it. So it's not a paint job, but they like wrap it with a matte black finish. It looks pretty cool, but you strike me as like an authentic Ferrari guy. You would only go with paint. You would never wrap that beautiful car in some matte black wrapping, would you? Like a gift box?
No, I'd buy it and take the wrap off of it.
Yeah, you seem like a purist to me, Phil Waters.
Yeah, I'm not into the wrap stuff on several different levels. But let's not start that discussion again.
Just switched over from the Crumbly trial. Man, I need a Friday STS show. So do I. By the way, we're doing the Crumbly trial, James Crumbly, on best trials in true crime. And look at this. Lejeune says, I've subscribed. I'm all in with STS. Well, you're in good hands with Phil and Scott. I don't know about myself. Love this melding of the minds on Fridays. So this is quite a disturbing story. This is Madeline Soto, all joking aside. This 13-year-old girl in Orlando, and we're going to dig pretty deep into this today. Phil and Scott, she was reported missing last Monday, February 26th. It was initially reported that she was dropped off by her wife's boyfriend, a guy named Stephan Sterns, right near Hunters Creek Middle School. Apparently, according to the original story, she wanted to get out a few blocks away because that's what she had asked for. Who drops their kids off a few blocks away? Not me. I don't know. Further investigation revealed, Phil and Scott, that Madeline Soto, Maddie Soto, as they call her, was in fact never actually dropped off. And investigators went on to say in a press conference just this past Friday, a week ago, that Stephan Sterns was throwing items into a dumpster around 7:35 a.m. That's the same day she went missing. And among the items that were going into the dumpster were a backpack and school laptop found in that same dumpster. So we'll stop it right there for now. Phil Waters, I didn't know this, but I found out that capital sexual assault, which I believe is what he is charged with, there is a death penalty in the state of Florida for that. Your reaction to that, Phil Waters, before we even go any further, the fact that Florida passed a law last year that capital sexual assault is punishable by death. Are you on board with that, Phil Waters?
Absolutely. I saw that. I remember when that happened last year. Good for Florida. I hope Texas does the same thing. Oklahoma, some of the other states that still have the death penalty in place. I think that is a work those cases. I'm telling you, that's depravity in and evil in pure form.
Phil is not going to mess around with this subject. Scott Duffy, in your opinion, Scott Duffy, is there anything worse crime-wise than an adult, male or female, not only preying on a young child, but then killing that child? Is anything worse than that?
No, it's the worst of the worst. It's the preying on the most vulnerable of our nation. As a matter of fact, there was a case that I worked years back, I think I talked about in the show, where a Russian bank robber killed his mother. And speaking with the Russian embassy in DC, the consular general said, killing a child is the worst thing in America, assault and killing. But the worst thing in Russia is killing your mother. So, I mean, just the fact that those two things, you know, and so here, yes, it's an absolute, just the worst of the worst, no doubt.
Is that a common crime in Russia to kill your mother? Is that something that happens?
No, I don't know. I don't. But
or you mean just said, like culturally, it is worse?
Yeah,
to kill
culturally, he said, hey, he killed his mother, and so we're gonna have a discussion with him when he returns to Russia after his sentence here. So I'm not quite sure what. Well, I think I know what that meant.
You never. If the Russians want to have a separate conversation with you, that's never a good thing. I don't think. Josie Chaplin, the mom. This is the big shift here. The mom knows more than she's letting on, and we're gonna look. You've got two investigative minds here in real time, and I'm gonna ask them what has to be done with this mother. I had lawyers on yesterday who said she better lawyer up. I'll be honest, I haven't had a chance. As far as I know, there hasn't been any movement. This is obviously the phrase of the day here: justice for Madeline. This story. I have 3 kids. Phil and Scott both have children. This is a tough pill to swallow, as they say. So, Scott Duffy, they found Madeline's backpack and school laptop in that same dumpster. Now, at 8:19, this guy, Stephan Sterns, he is seen. And by the way, this is Maddie, for those who haven't seen her. This is a young girl whose life was taken. So, at 8:19, Scott Duffy, the Orange County sheriff says that this guy, Stephan Sterns, the mother's boyfriend, is seen returning to their apartment complex in Kissimmee, Florida, around 8:19, and the missing teen is in the car. Scott, people saw what they believed to be was this young girl. She was sitting up in the car, but investigators say that they believe she was already dead, which means he had propped her up. Have you ever heard of this? I mean, outside of Weekend at Bernie's, this is something I've never heard of. I mean, this guy, and I'd love for you to speak to that. I mean, to the nature of this crime, that he was bold enough or crazy enough or impulsive enough to have killed this young girl and then literally put her in the car where she could be seen. I mean, what do you make of that?
Yeah. So if their story is correct, and I imagine they have some things to corroborate that, that's just a whole nother level of this shocking and disturbing crime, where he brings her back home. And I'm at a loss for words as to the reasoning. So he's just adding to the anguish and the depravity of just what is his thoughts. I couldn't really imagine. But there is one crime that I can only recall, where there was a suspected, still the woman remains missing today, and it's going back some time. But there is one video of her going through a toll booth, right? A toll booth camera captures what they believe to be husband and wife, the wife to this day being missing, suspected dead. And that the toll booth camera captures two people in the car, and they suspect that the passenger was the wife and that she was already deceased and propped up for. So it's just amazing what people are willing to do.
Phil Waters, I was going to ask you one question. I decided I'm going to ask you another question, but this comment by Annie K, I think, is interesting. Dumpster driving by law enforcement is helping solve cases low tech. We always talk about the DNA. We always talk about all the new technology. But Phil Waters, what about just old-fashioned gumshoe police work, where you go and you look inside dumpsters along this route? Is that something, you're an old school guy, when you were solving murders, would you have your guys look into the dumpsters, look into the garbage cans, look in the area? Is that all the stuff that a detective has to do as well?
Well, the short answer is yes. In my experience, and in most cases, even now today, with all the technological aspects of it that are at our hand, what solves these cases is just good old-fashioned detective work. You got to get out there. You got to get off your chair, out from behind your desk, off the phone, and get out there and what we used to call hitting the bricks, and get your hands dirty, get into it. And that's what solves these cases. Now, the DNA and all these other things, phones pinging and all that good stuff, that's just part of good detective work, getting that evidence. So, yeah, when it comes down to it, it's going to be just good old-fashioned get out there and get the job done that brings these cases to a conclusion.
Someone in the comments just said, enough with the Ferrari crap already. I'm over it. Listen, I report.
Then go to another channel.
Yeah,
that's all I'm going to do.
I
go
report,
elsewhere.
Yeah.
Go elsewhere.
I report. Oh, I love it. Phil's in the mood today. I report. You decide. All I'm telling you is when I see Ferraris, because Phil is a Ferrari file, I send him photos, and this one happened to have a black wrap.
I've got a whole folder. I have a whole folder now. I had to start a separate folder under my From Joel folder.
I love it. I love all
that
these
are just Ferrari sightings.
Phil, whenever you're stressed, you can go to that folder and look at pictures of Ferraris. I'm just apologetic. I couldn't get the black wrap one. Look at this. Eve Phelps. Scott, we might be neighbors during the school year. I live in Montgomery County, PA. So there you go. Have you ever seen Eve in the streets?
I'm not quite sure. I wonder what part of, like, is she a student, and is that
I
what
d
she's referring
I
to?
don't know, because she says part of the year, but Eve, if you drive by suspiciously, Scott Duffy will get your license plate number, and you will be 911 will be
Well,
called.
hello, Eve. It's good to
Yeah,
see you.
well, yeah. Scott Duffy, you and Phil both have enough experience, and I can ask you, and Phil's going to say, "Look, I don't want to speculate here." That's what Phil's going to say. But Scott Duffy, what do you think happened here? We're going to get into more of the details. This abuse, we find out, the wife's boyfriend, Stephan, who's now in custody as a prime suspect in the murder and is being held on sexual assault charges. Um, he had been abusing her, it turns out, for the better part of 2 years. She just had a 13th birthday recently. What what do you hypothesize happened? I mean, this doesn't sound like it was planned. It seems more spontaneous. Do you tend to agree with that? That something happened where this guy snapped one morning and said, maybe she's going to reveal something about me. I don't want it out there. She has to go. What's your gut instinct tell you? And there is this creature, Stephan Sterns, in his paper mache jumpsuit so he doesn't take his own life. Scott Duffy, any thoughts on what happened?
Yeah, I would tend to say it's not spontaneous, because of what sounds like law enforcement putting together a case of at least a couple of years of abuse, sexual abuse, and so thereby, we have seen time and time again, especially with these child predators. Um, it'd be interesting to know a little bit more of his past, what he's been linked to, what he's suspected of, and I would venture to say these predators, these child predators, they take advantage of the weak, right? They are satisfying their depraved sexual appetite, uh, and then it comes down to, okay, what do I do next? And is this person going to start to talk? Is this person going to start to be a witness against me? That's why I'd like to know a little bit of his history, if he's had a prior. Um,
Well, he stabbed someone when he was 14 and apparently got in some trouble. He was relatively young, but was dating a minor and got in trouble for that. And
yeah.
has a long history of drug abuse.
So as a history, so at 14, a minor, I don't know how much of a minor, but I would venture to say it's probably in the same age length range as who we're talking about today. So the so he went to jail, and he probably didn't like it, and so now he realizes, okay, I got to remove the witness. I mean, that's ultimately what it comes down to. It's in that absolute pure selfish. There's it's and then when they come to realization that I could be going to jail, that's when that next level takes place of this violence to to remove the witness. And so this is just it. There's just no way. There's no end. There's no way out in their minds, and so thereby they just resort to unimaginable uh, uh, violence here. It's just, it happens, right, time and time again. It's very similar case happened not too far from where I live years ago, and a very similar same age group, same just, and it just repeats itself. So
Yeah, it's the worst of the worst. Did you talk? Rosie Woods wants to know with Dr. G. I did speak with Dr. G. From the body language and behavior, he tends to think that the mother is innocent. He's the only one, though. So we're going to circle back and maybe get Dr. G on next week to explain exactly why. Followed here by Patricia Burns. In the mom's interview, she says the last time she saw her child was when she said goodnight. Then about 3 minutes later, she said she took her to school. Why would she cover for him? Great question. But Phil, you just heard Scott say he tends to think that this was a premeditated murder. Other people that I talk to tend to think that this guy just flipped out for some reason, and possibly something revolving around the 13th birthday being a trigger, and she had to go for whatever reason. Do you have a gut feeling one way or the other?
Well, I would say based on what we know, and if this sexual abuse has been going on now for 2 years or more, in the sense that it was premeditated, I don't know that I'd go that far. I think that it was something changed. It may have been something prompted by her 13th birthday. She may have said, I'm done with this. I'm not, you're going to got to stop, or I'm going to go tell my mom, or I'm going to go tell somebody else. I'm going to go tell officials. And I guess you could come to the conclusion at that point that once he's been confronted in that way, and this is all speculation, that once he's confronted that way, then perhaps premeditation may have occurred then. So he puts together a plan that he's going to kill her, and then I would go along with the premeditation part of it. But or it may have been he gets confronted for whatever reason, and in that moment he kills her, and he's got to dispose of her. So that would be obviously the two set of circumstances under which this could occur. I'm kind of prone to think that it was more a moment in time where he realized this was all fixing to come down upon him, and in that moment, that's when he killed her. Perhaps he was in the process of trying to further the abuse, and she said, no, we're not doing this anymore. I'm telling mom, or I'm whatever that conversation was. And in that moment, he killed her. Because if this is true about her being seen in his car at some point in time, and officials believe she was dead then, I would tend to believe that it was instantaneous, that it was something that happened right then. Because if it was premeditated, you would think he would come up with a better plan of disposing the body than sitting her in the car while she's dead and driving her around like it's, Weekend at Bernie's kind of thing. So I'm on the scale. I'm to a moment of passion that caused him to kill her.
There you go. Passion killing of a 13-year-old girl. Scott Duffy. So many angles to go. There was a real screw up by law enforcement that we'll get into. A lot of people with a lot of hypotheses about what happened. But one of the things that's interesting to me, this is a case where everyone already wants this guy basically hung out to dry, death penalty. You keep hearing that for this guy. And even the mother, the pitchforks, the proverbial pitchforks are out. There is supposed to be a presumption of innocence in this country, but how do you square that with a guy where almost everything is pointing to the fact that he was behind this, and possibly the mother as well? Is the public justified with their anger and vitriol towards this person?
Yeah, on both fronts. So absolutely, everybody is considered innocent until proven guilty in the court of law, and that's been a saying and a mantra in the legal system since the system was up and running. And the idea is that all the evidence is then put forth, and a defense is put forth if one is put forth, and then let a jury of his peers make that ultimate decision. But we also live in a time where crimes like these are often played out. So much information comes out, and so people are definitely theorizing and making judgments in their own head. and so thereby they're reacting as any human would to such a depraved crime like this that unfortunately plays out um, in our society time and time again. It's just but by all means, of course, we have to wait in judgment, but as the facts, make themselves known, um, it's just it's horrible.
Yeah. There's also some there's all kinds of speculation, but one of the big questions out there was she pregnant, and even possibly by the mother's boyfriend? That's a big question. Obviously, no real answer to that. If anyone knows, it's been so hard to get information about Maddie's biological father. If anyone has legit, real info, please do share in the chat. Martina says, "Hey, survivors." I love that. When I started the podcast, instead of STS Nation, I was going to be like, just call everyone survivors, because my mom says we're all just trying to survive in a rough world, but went with STS Nation, but we're all survivors too. Phil Waters from Roxanne A question directed to you, Phil, and please, you have two brilliant investigative minds. Put in those triple Qs and send them to Phil and Scott, and this is your chance to pick their brain. Is this a strategy, Phil, holding off on arresting the mother, or is it something else? She's clearly lying, and in a little bit, we'll play some sound from her and this creepy guy.
Well, that's a great question. It's always a within the strategy of an investigation, there are already tactical decisions that are made about how we should approach people who may be possible suspects. And in the course of the interviewing of those possible suspects, they're going to be either directly or they're going to be subliminally impressed upon them that you've got a choice here. You can either be a suspect or you can be a witness. Which one do you wish to be? And then that gives the detective a little bit of a direction to go with the person they're interviewing, who may be a suspect, a possible suspect, but we want to frame our discussion with them as though they are a witness, and then let them put themselves in whatever position they were in. So by virtue of the interview, she may divulge some things. Now, this part about she's obviously lying, I mean, that's kind of a presumption with most of these people that get caught up in something like this. But you get her in the interview room, and this is where it's critical to be listening to what she is saying and how she is saying it, and in the way she answers the questions that are posed to her, and letting her ask her those open-ended questions that are allowing her to go into a narrative. And then you go back and you start questioning parts of the narrative that don't align with the evidence that you already have. So you let her determine where she's going to be in the focus of the investigation. You cannot go in there. You should not. I mean, you could, but you don't want to go in there and immediately engage in an accusatory adversarial discussion. That's just going to cause that person to close down. And some people may get intimidated by that, the good cop, bad cop thing. I've never been a proponent of that. So I think, again, you've got to see the type of person that she is and frame your preparation for that interview with those known quantities about her.
I'm just about to sneeze. I thought I was about to, but I did not. So that is a good thing. So I was holding off for one quick moment, but sorry about that. So Stephan Sterns was arrested last week on sexual battery charges and possession of child sexual abuse material, Scott Duffy. Again, he's also the prime suspect, but he has not been charged with murder in this case. Now, we also found out that he has video material on his phones. The day, Scott Duffy, that he was arrested, police asked him if they could see his phone, and he said, "Oh, I accidentally or coincidentally did a factory reset on my phone, but with the the advent of the cloud and all that, police were still able to get information." So, from Nina Stanek here, do you think he sold the video / pictures to others, and could this case be getting much bigger? That is question number one. And we've got another one from Rosemary Romero. But is it possible that he was dealing in some sort of, child pornography?
Yeah, in my experience, they're not keeping these videos, photos of any kind for their own just personal enjoyment. They are sharing. So and that will be part of this investigation. They'll be able to determine that. And that just goes to show in any type of these cases, even shy of the homicide, just the sexual predator, the sexual abuse, and of course the possession or distribution of child pornography, of just how much that victim is victimized over and over and over again. So it's in my experience, they are typically shared, and they'll be able to determine that. And then, of course, wherever that leads them, if in fact he's sending them out on any one of these sites, and there are plenty of these sites, that these file sharings, they can and they will determine, where those images went. So it's it definitely, in my opinion, is a great possibility.
Not the answer that any of us wanted to hear. Jenny Price said that Phil was getting spicy and to add more Ferrari talk and more pictures. But we are not that petty here. But I'll probably put up a Ferrari picture at the end. Phil, Rosemary wanted to know, Rosemary Romero, friend of the show, do you think that the mom was just looking the other way? And here, from Laura V., do you think the mom is being interrogated? I know you prefer the word interview. Do you think there's a good chance she's down at the Kissimmee PD department speaking to detectives right now?
I would imagine she is. I would hope that she is. Certainly, she's key. She's one of the keys to this thing, this investigation. So, again, the big question is going to be, what did she know and when did she know it? Right? Those are the questions that are always asked in these types of investigations. So, if he's been abusing her for the daughter for 2 years, her daughter for 2 years, at least 2 years. So my question is, what's the time frame for the mother and this guy's relationship? So when did they meet? Have they been together a year or 3 years? They've been together, 2 years, right? Did he start this at the onset?
STS Nation, let me know. I think it's been longer, but STS Nation, let me know how long Jennifer Soto and this guy Stephan have been together.
So they've been together for a while, is my impression here, and long enough for him to understand that he's got a target. So he's got somebody here now, and who knows? I mean, the relationship. I'd be curious to know how the relationship started.
Yeah, look at this. I didn't know this, that the mom apparently has now lawyered up, so she's not talking to police. And COE, can you put the Laura Lee Podfan comment back up? I didn't mean to take that down. But go ahead, Phil. It looks like she's lawyered up.
Well, so if she in fact has done that, she's, I guess, made a decision that she wants to be a suspect. So it'd be, and I would be interested to know the setting. I mean, if it were me, this would have been a non-custodial interview and brought in, you tell her up front, you're not under arrest, you're not in custody, you're free to leave, and get that anxiety level down and then begin the interview. And I know how I would begin an interview like this. And so I don't know what they did. There is a possibility, of course, that they got her in there and it maybe was, I mean, who knows? I don't want to speculate, but who knows? There may have been something said or done in the course of that interview that caused her to do what if she in fact did this lawyering up. So when she's lawyers up, I can only think of one time in a non-custodial interview where someone actually said, I want a lawyer. The rest of it, there are only two times that I can remember where they stood up and said, I want to leave. So it's interesting though. And who knows? I mean, depending on what their policy is, they may have brought her in for a non-custodial interview and then turned right around and read a Miranda, which is, you should never do. But I don't know what their particular policies are. So there's a lot of different ways why we get to this point where if she has lawyered up. And of course, that ends the discussion unless she reinitiates contact with law enforcement.
The COE reminded me we do have sound, but Laura Lee Pot fan, and this is a Phil question here because he is the king of this. What kind of, you talked about it a little bit, Phil, but in terms of an interview technique that would work best with this mother to get the truth out of her, Laura Lee would like to know how you would approach this. I know you're going to say, I would approach this as I approach everything: open-minded, no gender bias, no race bias, no cultural bias, open-minded. Am I right, Phil? I know I'm not doing the best impression, but how would you approach her?
Well, the theme would be here, and you as an interviewer, you should develop a theme when you have it in your head, at least a strategy or a thing that you're going to. In her case, in a person like this, my theme would be is that I'm a parent. I have two daughters. I understand the shock you must feel right now in finding out these things. And I can empathize with you about how I would feel if I discovered that this was happening to one of my girls. And that's where I would start from. So the theme would be is that I'm connecting with her on that level of being a parent, not as a homicide detective talking to a suspect. So, and then we would go from there. And then I would talk about the relationship that she had with this guy. When did it start?
By the way, Phil, that is being answered in the chat. Somewhere between 6 and 8 years, it looks like Stephan and this mother have been together.
Wow. Okay. So, that question's come from. Hello, Abby. How you doing, daughter?
Yeah, there's Abby. Look, and I guess she has a new baby, Abby, because she has a new #1 STS fan.
Yes.
And also her have a niece, Millard Fillmore, named for you, not the president, is watching. Congrats on all of that, Abby.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Phil.
Well, that's pretty groovy. So back to her, I would just, I don't know what they did. I just don't know what they did. I just know what I would do if it were me. Then I would want to get that background between them. And now if he's been with her for 6 years, so in effect, he's been in the picture for half of her daughter's life. And so then you want to go and determine when did his depraved activities begin. Was he into this stuff before he got with the mother? Is this something that started after? And so there's a lot of stuff here that you could get from the mom, depending on how you approach that interview. If the interview was approached in a manner in which it got aggressive very quickly, then I'm not surprised at all that she has lawyered up, because it sounds like you're talking to her as though she's a suspect, and she picked up on that. So I mean, I don't know, but I just know I would do it in a with the theme of connecting with her on that level as a parent, and then kind of go from there.
By the way, Flinch Files says the biological dad and the stepmom are involved with Madeline. They just want to remain private as they're devastated, which is understandable. This is Stephan Sterns. So after she went missing and prior to his arrest, he decided to do some TV interviews. I played these yesterday, but we didn't get these two guys' reaction. So let's watch this interview, and then we'll get Scott's take and Phil's take on what they see and hear in this soundbite.
We don't know where she can be. We're scared. We just want her home.
Are you, in a sense, blaming yourself?
It's hard not to.
Why?
I dropped her off early. I could have waited longer. She looked okay. She was walking towards the school when I saw her. It was like any other day, so I went on with my day. It's hard not to blame myself.
Scott Duffy, your reaction to seeing this?
Yeah, I mean, I love interviews like this that you really can try to pull some information. Knowing what we know now and looking back, you could probably put things. He's very good with the we. So they're just the very first thing out of his mouth. We to me shows a disassociation as opposed to I. I'm her potential stepdad. I'm her caretaker. I'm her hero. I'm this. I'm that. And my girl, my daughter, my this. You would want to see. You would want to see tears come down. I mean, this is relatively soon after. And the head shaking back and forth, so it's immediately I wouldn't take too much from just that short clip, because now we know what happened, and it's easy to go back, but I do like it when people who are suspects give an interview to TV, because you can derive certain things from it and get an idea. Oh yeah, this is somebody we need to take a harder look at. But yeah, right. I'd be bawling. I'd be a mess. But he seems to be in control, and that's why. And just going back to my earlier, where I say it might lean more to being planned. Plan doesn't have to be months, days, weeks, hours. It could be minutes. It could be less. It could just be, okay, I'm going to go through with this. So, and then of course the getting rid of evidence and driving around. So I would venture to say, looking at that clip, it could go both ways. In other words, if he wasn't arrested and there wasn't this information of what was found on his phone, I'd be, okay, it's not probably how I would be reacting. And that's ultimately how you have to look at these. What is a rational person? What is somebody who just potentially lost their daughter or their stepdaughter, or who they should be an absolute caretaker and have that relationship with, your girlfriend's daughter who you have been taking care of for 6 years. I would expect to see a harsher reaction as opposed to what's being displayed there.
Yeah, I'm going to show Phil a separate clip in a moment, but there's a question here for you, Phil, from Hey, it's Jay. Could Stephan have groomed and brainwashed the mother to such a degree that she saw no red flags? As a mom of two, I believe mom would still sense that something is wrong. I want to hear your professional opinion. You know, you always hear about the kids being groomed, but is it possible that he manipulated the mother so much that she had no real idea? And she's said to have, you know, some sorts of mental health issues. She's being medicated, which a lot of people are, but maybe he was able to, maybe she was vulnerable and he was able to take advantage. But to you, Phil, this question about the mother being groomed, what do you think?
Oh, I think it's certainly possible. Sure. I mean, that's a good observation there. And, you know, you got to start at the beginning of this thing. I mean, who knows? That's why I'd be curious as how they met. When did they get together? When did the relationship get serious enough that now he is in some quasi form fulfilling the role of some sort of a stepfather thing? And if the daughter was at some point acting out or saying some things or doing some things that may have alarmed the mother, and then he swoops in and is able to convince her that no, you know, this is just she's getting older. And obviously this all came to a head when she turned 13. So this is a progressive event when this stuff happens. And so I don't think there's any, if the mother doesn't have any direct knowledge, and let's just say for the sake of our discussion that she had suspicions and she talked to this guy. Now remember, so they're in a relationship, and I see, you know, Scott and I've seen this all the time throughout our career, you know, where the woman in that relationship doesn't want to believe what she may suspect is happening. So, because her security is wrapped up in the relationship with this man. And it happens all the time. I mean, I don't know how many times I've seen, when I was in patrol, I'd go to family violence disturbances. And then it got to the point where you're going to the same ones all the time. It's like, what in the world? I mean, I've gone to those things where I've told them, you know, we're not coming out here again. If we do, if we come out here again, you're both going to jail. Because I'm done trying to referee this rodeo. And that happened a couple of times. I'd go back. Here we are. All right, turn around, put the handcuffs on them, and take them both to jail. And so it's just it was always a mystery to me why this happens. But I understand the dependency when these kinds of things happen. And so the tendency is, when these other things start to occur, like what's happened here, then you've got part of this that may have suspected something, but was convinced that nothing was going on, because this guy is a narcissist. He's a guy that wants to be in control, and he has been in control. And it may be one of these situations where it's gone on for so long that he got comfortable in being able to control it. And now it's out of control. And the only thing he had left that he could do, that he thought he could do, was to get it back under control, is to do something to her, to the daughter. And we see these situations time and time again. So, I'm going to the jury's still out about the mom. I want to see how this thing further develops. And as we go forward and see, I haven't read anywhere where he's made a statement. I'm assuming that they interviewed him. Have you seen anything, Joel, where he's made, other than this silly,
that he accidentally reset his phone? That's the only thing that I've seen.
Well, yeah, that's the only thing I saw too. And, and there's no such, no such thing as coincidence, and that's what he's trying to sell them. And of course, that's. And I'll tell you what, I would bet you that he is more concerned about them finding what I have seen to be characterized as videos of child abuse, sexual abuse. So my question is, are these videos of the girl and him? And I would tell you he's more concerned about that aspect of this investigation than he is about the fact that he may have killed her.
That's interesting.
So these guys that commit murders where there is a sexual component to it, I'm telling you, they're more concerned about that than they are about the result.
In what way, Phil? What do you mean when you say they're more concerned that they'll be humiliated by it, or that they won't be able to act on it anymore, or what?
Because they know what people are going to judge them. They're going to judge them by that.
Yeah.
The fact that he's murdered this girl is it's collateral to the main purpose behind what he was doing. So if he's filming these abuse videos, these child sexual abuse videos, and he's using her as part of that, number one, he's getting paid a lot of money. I don't know what he does for a living, but he's making a lot of money. There's a lot of freaking perverts out there that pay big bucks for this kind of crap.
Scary. Oof. So
there's a lot of, again, so we've got some different components going on here, but I'm telling you, when I have talked to capital murder suspects where sex was the component of the murder, that making it a capital murder, I will tell you that in those interviews, you will find them where they will cover their crotch. And it is something that it's not something they can control. They're doing it. It's just a defensive mechanism. And they will admit, I had one guy, I think I've talked about him on here, that stomped a woman to death because she wouldn't give it up. And then when he had her incapacitated, then he assaulted her. So the whole drive was sex. And he was in a non-custodial interview, he admitted to killing her, murdering her, but would not admit to the fact that it was driven by his desire to have sex with her, and that he did sexually assault her when she was unconscious. So it's a strange individual when they get into these homicides that are motivated by some sort of sexual component. It's a real weird person to talk to. They're very strange people to talk to because they're more concerned about this part than they are about the actual taking of a human life, which is interesting.
Aunt Crazy, there are a few childhood friends of Stephan who are talking about his personality from childhood to adulthood. Steve Cohen currently trying to get a hold of some of them. If we can, we'll get them on here. Nina is saying seize the mother's phone. Scott Duffy, is that something that they're working on right now? And I'm going to play the rest of the sound, I promise, in a minute. But is this something that they're working on to execute a search warrant to get her phone if they haven't done it already? That's question number one. Question number two, what about, manner, cause of death, autopsy, toxicology? I don't think we've heard anything about that. But first, with the mom's phone, will we see it being seized if it hasn't already been?
Yeah. So correct me if she has not been found, correct? Or
no, the body has been found.
Oh, it has been? Okay.
Yeah, it was found last week in a wooded area. Yes. In
Okay.
Orlando. Yeah. So the body is in their possession.
Okay. The With regards to the mother's phone, so that I would imagine that is playing. Of course, you have to have the evidence um, in order to pursue a search warrant into her phone. So if they were already able to make that connection, that leap, the I would be very surprised if it hasn't been executed already. So the digital aspects of this, the fact that child pornography, and Phil brought up a good point, is the from what I've read, the child pornography is it of the daughter, and that's why and maybe I was reading in between the lines when I thought I read that because of the video showing that the video goes back to at least when she was 11 years old, then that indicated to me that the video or photos with the date and timestamps are that of her, as opposed to other child pornographic images. And so thereby, because you have this cyber component, that I would be very surprised if they haven't already executed search warrants, first and foremost on the house of any digital devices that he had access to. Because now you're looking at, okay, let's just, what's the charge? The charge is an aggravated capital sexual assault investigation. And so thereby, that pretty much brings in any devices that he has access to. So if it's like, hey, do you guys share each other's phones? Of course, I'll pick up her phone. That's enough. And typically anything, like I've written search warrants and have executed search warrants on child pornography cases where I'm looking to get any device and any media medium within reach of the suspect. And that, if I'm doing an apartment or a house, that's pretty much everything that's included. And then if need be, you get additional search warrants, but at least you have it in your custody, so it cannot be compromised.
Nina Stanek with the super chat. I believe mom was actively, not passively involved. I bet they both sold the essay online. One of his friends said he rarely worked, but always had money, to Phil's point. Here's the other soundbite from this guy. And then we've got some of the mother with this guy in the background, which is very interesting. I want Fil and Scott to weigh in on that. This one first, we'll get Phil's reaction, and then we'll bounce through these soundbites fairly quickly.
It's a living nightmare. Day started off like any other, and I just want to wake up. You just get hit with waves of the reality, just it's setting in. As soon as it got dark last night, we started falling apart because we knew it wasn't going to come to an end. And now we're going on 24 hours and still nothing. Just conflicting reports here and there. People say they see this or that. None of it's conclusive and none of it's helpful. We just want a baby girl back.
Tom, any questions?
Phil Waters, by the way, Midwest is pointing out that the affidavit says that the essay photos that were released, or that they've discovered, I should say, on the phone, are of Madeline Soto, the 13-year-old. That is according to the affidavit. So it is of her. The images are of her. What do you make of this interview here, Phil Waters? This particular soundbite.
Well, the pretend emoting and he's, he'll say something, to Scott's point about the shaking of the head. It's interesting to watch. He's at some point he's talking about something positive but he's shaking his head no. Then you see him where he says, we just want her back or something like that. And he nods himself in the affirmative. And he would like that to happen. He would like that to happen. He knows it isn't going to happen.
Yeah.
And
he says something like, he says something that struck me. He says something like, we all just wanted her to come back or something. And
Right.
it's like he's feeling for himself more than her, or more worried about
Well, of
himself.
course he is. Well, of course he is, and he's at least in these clips. I don't think he ever says her name, does he?
No, that's a great point. Great
He-
point.
You
Great
know, he
point.
never. Well, I mean, we're looking at these clips. I don't know if he may have.
Yeah.
If
A
he may have
homicide
said it somewhere else, but
on the show yesterday, a homicide detective from Orlando. Actually, I think it was someone else. It was Tim Jansen, said, who's a criminal defense attorney. He never really makes eye contact here. He's always looking down. What does that tell you, Phil? If someone's always looking down?
well, he's very well in this particular case. He's got to think about what he is saying, because he knows what he's saying is deception. He knows it's deceptive. So this constant looking down, and he's trying to get his thoughts together. He doesn't want to say something and slip up here. And so you'll notice that when he does look up, it's at the end of a sentence where he got out what he needed to say, and he's kind of bringing it to a conclusion, and then he's looking up to kind of finalize that statement. But no, this guy's, I mean, there's these little clips we're seeing, excuse me, just reeks of deception. And then, and like I said, the emoting and all that stuff, the Kleenex up to the nose, there's no snot there. And, so this guy's, these are crocodile tears. In fact, I didn't even see any tears.
Yeah,
He's
there's
just
no
doing
tears.
a little, he's probably sticking a needle in his leg just to make his eyes water a little bit. So, I'm just being facetious, but he's trying hard to be sincere. He just ain't selling it, in my view.
Lemon Bonbon, tuning in from Ireland, lest you think we are not a global show. The Republic of Ireland. Shout out to Blackwood Door. Does your panel believe, Scott Duffy, that this guy Stephan Sterns has other victims? Is where there's smoke, is there fire? Does your gut instinct tell you that this guy's done this to other young girls in the past, and that they're out there as well? And like someone said earlier, this could be a much bigger case.
Yeah, I would venture to say that there are other victims, not necessarily of homicide, though there could be. But I would venture to say that definitely of the child pornography, that there are other victims, whether it be known to him or not. And then, of course, just the sharing, and then to give the audience an idea of the levels. Possession of child pornography, bad. Distribution of child pornography, worse. And then, of course, the production, is at that top tier in the Fed system. So I would definitely, I would feel very comfortable that this is not the first, maybe perhaps the first homicide, but you've already indicated, in his early teenage years, a very similar something took place, and then a stabbing took place. I'd be interested to know who he was stabbing, and then how old the young victim was of the sexual assault or contact, whatever he at that point. But now between 14, however much time he's done, and I don't know how old he is. How old is he? Do we know?
This I have no idea.
But he looks of age. That there's a considerable amount of time that there's definitely room for additional victims, and depending on how many relationships he's had is of a similar nature, where a young mother has a young daughter child, that there could be, that he's kicked out and no police reports made, and now what's happened, they could come to light.
Yeah, he looks mid-40s ish to me. Where was Madeline's body found? The answer is in a rural, wooded section of Osceola County. What's interesting about that is detectives got a tip showing Stephan Sterns, or revealing that Stephan Sterns was actually changing a flat tire near that area when he said he was at some vape shop. So the story's not adding up. Now, this coming up, Debbie Blair says he is sickening. I'd have to agree with that. This clip here is the mother being interviewed. I haven't seen this yet. And in the background, Stephan Sterns is walking around and acting weirdly. He is the boyfriend. There's two separate clips here. Let's watch them and see what Fil and Scott have to say.
Gotten into a fight in like a few weeks or arguments or anything like that. If anything, on Sunday, she celebrated her 13th birthday with my entire family and she had the best day. She was so happy. She showed us all her gifts. She's just a happy girl, and she showed it on Sunday night when she went to bed. She was so happy. So, she had the best day. I just, there was no moment in that evening from when she got home from the party that she had her phone or had the laptop. She went straight to getting ready and went to bed. So I know she didn't have any conversations with anyone. She didn't make plans with anyone. I didn't see any of that.
There's that one. I'm going to play this one too. And there's one more.
I'm trying to hope for the best, but I'm scared for her. I want her to be okay, and I want her to be safe. I don't want her to come back harmed. I just want her back, whatever that means. I just want her back.
Phil, you're the world expert at this. What about this second bite here? The kind of pleading, I just want her to come back. I think the next clip we might see this guy doing some. He starts cracking his knuckles and taking hits off a vape pipe, etc. But Phil, this particular clip right here, where she's sort of pleading, wants her daughter back, appear to be crocodile tears. What do you see?
Well, it's kind of tough because we're just seeing these little clips. Well, I get from this is, I think if you contrast it with him saying we want her back, I think the mother here is much more sincere about that particular desire and that statement. I'd be curious to know, was this interview conducted before or after they found her body?
Oh no, this is
before, right?
This is before, yeah.
Because she's saying we just want her back.
Yeah.
So I don't, at this point, in terms of that, I think that was sincere, but the other stuff, it looks like she's trying to hold it together. And of course, I guess that's him in the background, right? We just see partial.
Yeah, I think there's a part where he comes into frame and starts cracking his knuckles and doing some weird stuff.
Okay, well, she obviously knows he's back there. And at this point, I guess it's, you don't know what you don't know. So I didn't detect the facade with her that I did with him. I think she's being pretty open and honest about what she's feeling at that time.
Copper Horse, one of our amazing mods, when he said, "I can't help but blame myself," it was an admission of guilt, Scott Duffy. What do you make of that? The people, is the psychological mind so powerful that by saying that, he is really saying, I did this? Are you looking for these sorts of things, Scott?
Yeah, you are looking for these things. You're looking for where the body reaction is different from the words. And so, as Phil said, he's doing a lot of this in, for example, I looked at it and I was trying to write it down, but
he's 37 years old, by the way.
Okay.
Wow, he looks like crap. Thought he was in his mid-40s.
But
Anyway,
you're looking for things like that where if you are doing this while speaking words of like positive, you should be doing this. Your body should be in union with what is in conjunction with what the words are. An innocent, a grieving person, their body will give off that same vibe as the words. You may stutter, it's not a rehearsed thing. It's real. And so the tears, that's all part of what you're looking for. Um, and so, I imagine that's a Zoom interview. You know, yeah, I would agree that there's a few things that seem more believable in her, but I still feel I would probably jump on a few of her word choices. And, when she says, uh, I hope for the best or something, but I'm not so sure. That's at that early, in especially with her still being missing, a mother should absolutely hang every word on she's coming back. Um and that's end of story, because I won't accept that she's dead. I won't accept that she's harmed. It's not. And so that's what you would want to see, as opposed to I hope to, but I'm not so sure that things are going to turn out well. Um, that's where it's like, what does your brain already know? Him being in the background, probably waiting on every word that she's saying, and he wants to be in close proximity, as opposed to get out of the camera view. It's kind of a weird combination, but of course we don't know enough about the mother, and so that's where, going back to earlier, what would what would we do? My interview would be trying to understand who is her relationship more akin to, him or her. And so and then I would use that angle to say, okay, is she your daughter who you loved and you're worried sick about losing, or are you worried sick about your boyfriend and she's in the way? She's an impediment to that, your relationship with him. So you can pick that up in an interview, and then I would use that towards, is your daughter the victim, or is your daughter the problem? And so thereby steer that and with regards to her. Um, so I can't tell enough from that where her allegiance lies at the moment, and it does lie one way or the other.
Hmm. Patricia Burns says, because he's standing there, that he is policing the interview, which I tend to agree with. Hey, it's Jay says, Phil Waters, I assume after you interview people, you go back and look at the tape and you're able to deconstruct it. This is an interesting comment. When the mom says, I just want her back, whatever that means, what is your opinion of these words? I think it means she knows for sure, or knows likely she's dead. Those words depict knowledge. Very interesting. And the human brain is interesting. Phil, do we say things that we don't necessarily intend to say?
Oh, sure. Happens all the time. But I think I just want her back. I mean, that's a pretty generic statement because she's missing. And all she's thinking about is, I just want her back. So I don't know that. And again, we've not seen, I mean, we've seen these clips, so it's kind of hard to get the context and of in which these things are being said, except for these small clips that we're seeing. So I just don't get the same vibe from her that I'm getting from him. And so it's just going to be, I mean, we got a lot of things to wait for here, right? We need the autopsy. I don't think the autopsy results have been released, right? There's been no preliminary.
Yeah, there's also laws. There's laws in Florida about autopsies of minors. So I don't even know if we're going to find much out ever, but the police will.
Well, they don't know the at least we haven't been told what the cause of death is.
Correct.
I mean, the manner of death is going to be ruled homicide, but
yeah. cause we don't know.
So there's a lot of things we don't know. And to the issue of are there other victims, I would say that's 100% guaranteed in regards to the sexual abuse video stuff. There's got to be other people. That didn't just happen, 2 years ago with her.
A lot of people are asking Phil if she's being filmed. If there's a possibility that the mother was doing the filming. I assume investigators will be able to figure that out.
Look, anything is possible. Anything is possible. The only thing I would say about the mother, she's a little bit of emoting there at the end of one of those statements, and other than that, she's keeping it under control. So that might, of course, the question I would ask her, sitting in the room, one of the first questions I would ask her is, when did you become aware of his sexual abuse with your daughter? When did you become aware of that? Now, that's a question. That's not a yes or no. She's going to have to answer that question in a narrative of some kind. And then, so if she starts that out with denying it, then we go from there and we get back to, when is the first time you noticed anything, a change in behavior with your daughter? Was it, how far into the relationship with him did that occur? There's a whole bunch of questions to ask her to try to determine whether or not she has taken some active role in the sexual abuse. So, yeah.
Jenny Price weighing in. She makes me want to change my name from Jennifer or Jenny to something else. Here's the last clip of the mom. Let's listen together.
To school. We dropped her off close to school, across the street from a church, which is it's right next to the school. She crossed the street and walked to school, what we thought walked to school. My boyfriend who drove her to school drove away at that point. It was seen on video footage that she hung out in the parking lot of the church for a few minutes and then got up and walked towards the school. But she never made it that walk and that was around 9 a.m. when she got up. She never made it to school after that. It's right next to the school. I don't know why she didn't make it. I don't know if something happened on her walk along the way or if she got taken, but she never made it.
And here, Scott, you see the boyfriend. It's weird. He comes into frame. He sits down. You can see him take out his vape cartridge. And Scott, he reminds me of a bouncer at a bar. Like he's sitting on a stool behind her, like almost like that's the entrance to the bar, making sure that everything is under control. What did you make of this clip? I know they're short clips.
Okay, so I'm confused. And then, of course, if this was a one-on-one interview, I would bring her back. Okay, did you mean this? Did you mean that? I was confused by the we and then he. So unless I missed something, so I know what he said. I brought her to school, and then she looked happy. She went about, and so thereby went about my day. And then her we, but then she corrects herself. I think that is a statement there. It's coming out. But then he brought her to school. So I'm confused by did you drive together and then the mom jumps out of the car and then he continues on? So
are these all if this was a police interview, are these all follow-ups you'd be asking?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
And you allow everything, first and foremost, allow everything to come out.
Well, now I'm curious. I didn't pick up any of that. Let's go back and watch it one more time here.
And that was around 9 a.m. When school. We dropped her off close to school, across the street from a church, which is it's right next to the school. She crossed the street and walked to school, what we thought walked to school. My boyfriend who drove her to school drove away at that point.
That's important.
It was seen on video footage that
My
She go-
boyfriend who drove her to school.
my boy.
Contradiction.
Yeah, that's what's going on there, Scott.
So, and what I would, of course, if this was our interview, Phil and I would already have all the information, like things that are going to help us understand what is a lie, what's a misstep or whatever. But she is now conforming to the video. Video came out. She's already aware of it, but I would like to know if the boyfriend's interview on camera is day before. She's aware of that, so she's now trying. This is where I would venture to say, just on that alone, she's covering. What is she covering for?
Yeah.
So
By the way,
she's
this is also an important point, Scott. I'm sorry. I have
Yeah.
girls, and a 13-year-old for quote unquote forgetting her phone because she didn't have it is the biggest red flag for me. It's basically another limb. And someone else pointed out that what was the other thing? The other thing will come back to me. But anyway, there was no phone there that day. Oh, that they're not saying her name. Neither are saying the daughter's name. But anyway, go ahead.
The interview,
She-
looking at the interview and her Zoom call, she seems like she is trying to make everything fit what her boyfriend said versus now what a video comes out that probably counteracts. And then the fact that she is we, then he, those are definite things that I would come back and follow up and drill her down to. So why are you saying you both were you up in that car? Were you, oh no, I stayed home, or I did this, I'm sorry. Those are some things that really bother me with her portion of this interview.
Let's keep listening to this part and let Phil win.
and walked to school, what we thought walked to school. My boyfriend who drove her to school drove away at that point. It was seen on video footage that she hung out in the parking lot of the church for a few minutes and then got up and walked towards the school. But she never made it that walk and that was around 9 a.m. when she got up. She never made it to school after that. It's right next to the school. I don't know why she didn't make it. I don't know if something happened on her walk along the way or if she got taken, but she never made it.
Phil Waters. Open-ended question. Your reaction to this? I think Scott makes a really good point. We. Then she says, "My boyfriend," and then at the end, by the way, she gives a possibility. Maybe she was taken. Like she's throwing out. I don't want to say alibis, but possibilities of what could have happened, but not anything from her or her boyfriend. What?
Well, again, based on this clip, the use of "we" stands out. But what I'm trying to be mindful of here is that she is regurgitating what he told her. So that all pacing around in the back, I think, is he's running off some nervous energy there because he's listening to what she's saying. And he's got a little concern that if she goes off script, it may look bad for him. And that's just my opinion about what's going on in the background there. In terms of her, again, the body has not been found. She's talking about videotape that has been looked at. So this, which leads to another thing, you've got the detectives, and I'm sure they're doing this and have done this. You've got to develop a timeline as to where she started, where Madeline started, and then where is the last place that we see her. Now, if she's right that she was at the school and she's on video at the school and she's on video walking towards some other location, then my question is, where's the video that sees her, that captures her leaving the school? Because what may have happened here is that, and again, this is just pure speculation, but that if we dropped her off, then he returned and picked her up. And that's where she met her fate. So, again, you got to have a timeline here. These are just things we just don't know. We got to have a timeline, and the things that she's saying in there, I'm assuming that this thing about a video are factually correct. And I think he has told her, if the we part of it is she's saying that he told her, he took her to the school, this is what we've always done. And he's using the term we, and she's just incorporating herself. You know, we took her to school, but he's actually the only one that physically did it. You know, we blah, 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 blah. So I just don't know, but that would be something that would have to be sorted out in an interview room. So it's very hard to get. Again, we're just pure speculation based on these very, very short clips. So there's a lot of possibilities here for what's going on. But my impression is she's regurgitating what he told her.
I was watching Phil watching her, and in that moment, I was having an image of her being me in the interview room with Phil, and I started to have a panic attack. So, Phil's just like glaring at the video, like you're in that interview, and Phil's just like this, and you start to sweat. You start to sweat. Beads are running down my face. By the way, police have come out and said that there is no video of Madeline Soto or the boyfriend or the mom at this church. So they went. Churches in the buildings across the street, I'm sure, have cameras. They went and looked and made this a point. There's another very.
Well, let me say something here. If that's true, then where do you think she got that information?
Mr. Boyfriend.
You bet. Just saying.
Yeah. Phil Waters, there's another very disturbing part of this case, and we'll spend the last couple of minutes just going over some crazy other true crime
Good
stories.
grief, how could it get any more disturbing?
It can't. But Phil, it turns out that now the state attorney, a guy named Andrew Bain for that area, is calling on the Florida Department of Law Enforcement, otherwise known as FDLE, to investigate the Osceola County Sheriff's Office. And that's because the Osceola County Sheriff's Office accidentally posted a photo of a body online, and it was Madeline's body. It was crazy. They posted this on Instagram. It was supposed to be some post about a community event for seniors on Instagram, but they accidentally included a photo, a crime scene photo. What the hell is going on there, Phil?
Well, whoever and what was it what was it actually a part of? What was the video?
So there's a couple of different investigative entities working on this. The lead is Kissimmee, but Osceola County is a big county up in Orlando, and they also have been involved. And so I'm sure that they were at the scene where the body was found, and there's a photo of Maddie Soto's body. It's hard to imagine.
No, I get that. Where did it appear? What is the?
Oh, it appeared on an Instagram post for the Osceola County Sheriff's Office. They were promoting a community event for seniors on Instagram, saying, "Hey, come to the seniors event." And there was a photo of her body that was put on Instagram.
Well, oh my gosh.
I mean, Phil, if this was your department, this was Houston PD.
Oh, I tell you what, there'd be some freaking heads rolling. I can tell you that. And I'm just trying to. It would almost appear that, some departments, well, most all departments, in fact, our HPD, we had the crime scene units come out and they videotape and take pictures. Then those pictures are developed in the photo lab. And pictures for community service related events are also processed in that same lab. What I would like to think that happened here is that somehow in the process of photos for this event and photos from this crime scene, somehow one of these photos from the crime scene inadvertently got slipped in or developed in the same picture catalog that was being developed for this event to be posted on Instagram. That's what it sounds like to me has happened here. Now, the problem with that is, if it was in fact an accident, I'd hate to think that it was something salacious, like, surreptitious, like somebody was going to slip one picture in there to see if anybody's caught it. That kind of bull crap. And if that's the case, then somebody's going to be in some real hot water. But if it was something that was an accidental event that occurred, then whoever the last person was that was editing the final product, if they didn't catch it, then that's on them. And whether it was an accident, an oversight in that context, that person's still going to have to pay a price. They're going to have to, they're either going to be suspended. Something's going to happen. There's going to be a consequence for that. So I'm sure there's going to be an internal investigation to determine how in the world did that freaking picture show up in this community service event. So, but yeah, it's horrible when stuff like that happens, but I mean,
Phil, you said, you said a couple things in there. You used the word developed with pictures, and then photo lab. So someone said photo lab. Do they use film, or is Phil just using old terminology, Phil? Because
I'm using old terminology, but we all know now it's all digital stuff, right? But you still have to develop the pictures. We get pictures. We can have those pictures printed. I mean, even though they're coming off of a digital file. So I would imagine in the process of putting these pictures, if all they did was put these pictures in a file, in a digital file, they're moving pictures from one place to another. So I'll use the word develop. In the development of that disc that's going to be used to put these pictures together, if that picture, for whatever reason, inadvertently gets slipped into that series of pictures on that disc or on that digital file, then that's how it ends up in the program that was presented on Instagram. So my point is that how did that picture get in that series of pictures on that card, on that disc, on whatever it was that was used to put those pictures together? How does that picture get there in the middle of all that other stuff? So that's when I go back to the person who did the final editing for the pictures that were to be used did not catch the fact that there was one picture from that crime scene, because they were probably all being put together at the same time. They were being downloaded or however they were being put together. But yes, they still do. You go to Walmart and you put in your little disc and they develop a picture. So, excuse me for using an old term for what still happens today. They still do develop pictures. It's just off of a disc and off of a digital picture instead of putting it through the process.
Can I weigh in?
Yeah, just real quick. A lot of people are saying that it was on the sheriff's personal Instagram account, and others are saying it's an election year. Maybe he was sabotaged. What happened? Please weigh in, Scott.
Could be.
So, having been an evidence guy, you are told, and been an evidence guy both in the developing of film to the digital, taking out the disc, and having many cameras given to me, and as well as a bureau phone. The one thing you are taught over and over and over again: whatever you do, do not snap a picture with your personal phone. Whatever you do, whatever, take the camera, the FBI camera, practice, but ensure that when you go to a crime scene, you take a new disc, a disc that's going to come out of that camera and go into your evidence. And that's it. It is on its own. However, I could see here, and just speculating, especially if the information is true, that the Instagram post is posted on his own, not only his own account, even if it was an official account, if posted by his phone, is it possible that a police officer, the sheriff, whoever, is on that crime scene, takes a picture for their own benefit? Or meaning, hey, I just want to take a picture because I can't help myself. And then while you're also doing your thing to promote something, you add a photo that's on your camera, and so thereby you didn't catch it. That I could unfortunately see that happening. And so thereby this commingling. Yeah, and I saw a post that, it's unfortunate, it takes away from the true story. Sure, it does. It absolutely does. And that's why, it is important that if anybody's coming to that crime scene, that's not the investigators, that are not the crime scene people that are there to for example, it's very hard to keep the sheriff, the chief, the ranking file away. But if somebody takes a picture on their phone, I could easily then see that being, and that is an issue, not an intentional, but a very easily avoidable misstep, and that's where I could see that happening.
By the way, Andy,
Well, I'll tell you what, I want to, Scott brings up an excellent point. I think somebody just posted on here that it was on the sheriff's phone.
Yes, it was.
So my guess is that the sheriff didn't make the scene. I mean, he may have, but it sounds to me as though a detective at that scene, or a crime scene unit, was directed by the sheriff. Let me know what you find. Let me know what you have. Is it her? And they sent him the picture. It's a single picture is what I understand, right? Mm-hmm. So they sent him the picture, having taken it, just like Scott has said, off the phone, and sent it to him. And I do the same thing. I get a picture on my phone, every one of your Ferrari pictures, it just goes to my photos. I've got over 1,000 freaking pictures on this phone. And of all sorts of different things. And if the sheriff was putting together, if that Instagram post is coming off of his phone directly, then I think Scott's exactly right. It just gets commingled in there, and he didn't realize it. Because when you go in here and you start transferring photos, and you get to that part where it says, the little upload arrow, the little box with the upload, and you go to that, and you can do it in all manner of different things. You can post it to Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, all these different apps you can post these pictures to. And if that's what he did, he just went through. And the way, how do you do that? So you go into your photos and you hit select, and then you start checking the photos that you want transferred. And they all have a little blue backfield with a white check mark on them. Those are the ones you're going to transfer. And so I think Scott's hit it. The guy's, he checked off a bunch of pictures, hit that one and doesn't even realize what he did, and then he sends it, and then it's too late. You know, once you hit the send button, you can't get it back. So I'd like to think it was a terrible but an innocent mistake made by an oversight.
Phil Waters, there's something else. You know the old commercials for the Ginsu knives, and there's more. Well, there's more with the
boy, of course there is.
And this is Andy's school. There was a law enforcement personnel, a female, who took a selfie of Stephan Sterns exiting in handcuffs with her face in the corner. It was one of these with him in the background, and she posted it on her Facebook. Phil Waters, if you were the chief in Houston and one of your officers got posted a Facebook of you arresting a high-profile suspect, what would you do to that person, Phil Waters?
You know,
shaking his head.
Cops are their own worst enemies. And, you know, I used to just, guys that were posting stuff to social media that were just, why are you doing that? Because you're excited about something that nobody else knows, or you want to be part of something that nobody else can be a part of. And that's what happened here, it sounds like. Who knows if she was even part of the freaking investigation, right? She's wanting to post something. People need to think about this crap they're posting online. I mean, I'm just amazed at how stupid people are when they start posting crap on here. It's just amazing. I don't even engage in this crap anymore. I'm so disgusted.
By the way, someone's telling me it's not an officer, but a civilian employee who was there. So
well, regardless, it doesn't make any difference. If you know, if they're involved in law enforcement in any way, whether it's as support or whether it's operational, that was stupid. I mean, if you want to tell your friends about it, if you want to take a picture of it, that's no blood, no foul. But to stick your big fat face in the middle of it, like you're look at me. What an idiot. You know, I mean, that's just stupid. So I just I'm amazed at some. Oh my gosh, man, people. This social media stuff is just ridiculous. But
Teresa says, is Phil, there's been a conversation about this, Phil, saying that you look remarkably similar to Christian Bale, the phenomenal actor. Are you related?
It's a compliment.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, he's from England, right?
No, I think he's American. Christian Bale's American. I don't
Christian
think
Bale? I thought he was English.
Let us know, STS. I think he's English. Is he English?
Let me make sure I got my Christian Bale right. What movies has he been in?
He was in that movie, I think, The Machinist, where he lost all that weight, and then
Batman. He was Batman.
He was Batman. Yeah, Batman's a big one.
Yeah, I think he's English. He's actually English.
Oh, someone's saying British. Yeah. Some people are saying
English. For crying out loud. Okay, that's a distinction without a difference. Right?
I asked Phil last week, Phil, have you changed your mind? Are you going to be watching the red carpet ceremony this week? Born in Pembrokeshire, Wales, UK on January 30th.
Okay, well, there you go.
Phil, are you going to be watching
Entertainment? It's possible. I do have British blood in me. So, yes, it's possible.
It's possible. Here's, by the way, this is the last soundbite, and then we'll have fun for the last couple of minutes. I have to run and race and take my kids to the museum. I mean, to the UFC weigh-ins. Here's the sheriff talking about the investigation. Final bite here.
Detectives have determined that Madeline was never dropped off on the morning of February 26th near her school. Instead, we believe she was already dead at the time and that Stephan Sterns moved her body in the early morning hours on that day. We have video evidence that shows Stephan Sterns discarding items in a dumpster in that apartment complex in Kissimmee at 7:35 on Monday, February 26th.
So there you go. They have evidence that she was never dropped off. This story is going to be very wild to follow, a lot of twists and turns. We're going to keep our eye on what happens with Jennifer Soto, the mother, this weekend. And Ned Smith said Christian Bale is a hunk. Phil Waters, I asked last week, I will ask again. are you and the wife going to be watching all the pre-Oscar red carpet stuff on E! Entertainment, so you can see what dresses all the actresses are wearing and what tuxedos the men are wearing? Are you going to be watching that? Is that one of your high priority to-dos for this weekend?
No.
That's what I thought the answer was. Let's go through some few big true crime stories of the week. Now, this is an interesting one. I'm trying to get on Joe Rogan right now for my book. How I'm going to do it is anybody's guess. I'm thinking about flying out and assaulting Joe Rogan and making him. I'm thinking of bringing Fil and Scott, although Rogan's like a black belt in jiu-jitsu, but Scott can still take him, and forcing him to have me on his podcast. But it turns out that a prison reform activist who was unjustly serving a 25-year jail sentence, he was on the Joe Rogan show a couple of weeks ago and said that it's all about racism in the justice system. That is the problem. And then this very person, this same person whose name is Sheldon Johnson, was arrested for murder. He was carrying around a decapitated head in a blue plastic bin around New York City. Someone who overheard what happened heard someone in his apartment saying, please don't, I have a family, before hearing 2 gunshots. And this guy who was just on Rogan talking about systemic racism in this country and in particularly the justice system has now been arrested for murder in New York City. Scott Duffy, you say most things don't surprise you. Does it? Someone tweeted at me and said, look, none of your guests have decapitated anyone because you've got the best guests. And that is damn right and true. My guests do not decapitate people as far as I know. Scott Duffy, does any of this surprise you? Back to the surprise question.
I'm confused by that one. So
ask a question.
So he got out. Was he wrongfully convicted, or did he get
wrongfully convicted? He was wrongfully convicted. He got out. I don't know the details of the story, but I do know he was apparently wrongfully convicted, gets out, goes on the Joe Rogan show. He's been out for a little bit. He's talking about the justice system, the prison system, prison reform, and says, look at this. Sarah Adams says, I do not decapitate. Very good. I'm proud of you. Talking about the prison system, how it's very racist, which there's, I'm sure, elements of truth to all of that. Lo and behold, he is discovered with a human head in a plastic bin, and it turns out he shot and killed this person and then carved him up. That's the basic story. Ned Smith says, I've lost my head a time or two, but never decapitated.
Yeah,
Scott, you seem confused.
I am confused, and I may even say surprised on this one. This one, I would like to do a deep dive into.
What surprises you? The fact that he was a guest on Rogan?
What flavor is this guy?
What flavor? You mean as in what is his like ethnicity?
Is he black,
race?
white? What is he?
He's African American. African American.
Okay. So you got a black guy who was wrongfully convicted and everything's racism, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you to Rachel Wyatt. Thank you, Rachel.
Yeah, well, okay. I'm so sick and tired of hearing that crap. But anyway, and then he goes, I hope this clarifies it for you, Scott. And then as I understand the telling, as he goes and he later is found walking around what town?
Look, you did it, Joel. You finally surprised Scott from PSS.
He's walking around
New York City. New York, baby.
New York City, which we all know is the
if I saw someone walking around with a head, if I was in New York and I saw someone with a head, I would not be.
This guy's walking around New York City with a head in a bag. And he had to acquire the head somewhere, right? So and then there was some sort of disturbance that was heard in an apartment. Don't do that. We have a family, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yes, correct.
Pretty close. Who did the head belong to?
to whoever he. To, I finally awakened these two. They are.
Who,
Rogan.
just
Was it
answer
Joe
my
Rogan?
question. Who did the head belong to?
It belonged to whoever this guy shot. The guy's name is Sheldon Johnson. He's the guy that was in prison. He gets out and he shoots somebody in the head, and then he carves up his body and keeps his head in a plastic bin.
Okay. So do we know why
No.
what's the allegation here about why he did this?
I don't have the background.
Well,
sorry,
it's
I
either
don't.
sex, drugs, or money. So I guess what we can be assured of now is that regardless of race, creed, color, orientation, or anything else, whatever flavor he may be, the evidence is leaning toward he is going to be rightfully convicted. And so he will then be put back somewhere where he apparently really belongs. So I guess that kind of his whole argument on Joe Rogan, he just imploded his own argument.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did. And obviously, Joe Rogan does not have the best guess. We
So,
do.
Scott, do you understand now what has happened here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
ADR is saying this happened in the Bronx, by the way, not Queens. Let's move. We have very limited time, so let me fly through this. A pregnant Texas. This is your hood. This is Houston, Phil. A pregnant Texas woman going through a rough patch in her marriage. She makes a horrifying discovery. Her name is Catherine Herring. She spoke to People magazine. She found out that she got violently ill after drinking a glass of water. Turns out that she was pregnant. Her husband, who is an attorney, knew that she was pregnant and was giving her some sort of abortion medication. Not abortion medication, but some sort of he was giving her something to induce an abortion. And she and a private investigator eventually found packaging in their own garbage can. And it was, I'm trying to find out if it tells you the exact, it doesn't say exactly what he was giving her, but he was trying to induce this abortion. He was eventually charged. He was charged with felony assault. It was, he pled down to lower charges. So he got 180 days in jail. And the couple, shockingly, is now divorcing. He is out of jail now. The very, 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 very sad part about this, the mother had the baby, but the baby was born 10 weeks premature, and the baby had to spend 3 months in the hospital. And the mother's quote is, the wife's quote, "I just don't think 180 days is justice for attempting to kill your child." And he did it 7 separate times. Is there a special place in hell for this guy, Phil Waters?
Oh, I'm sure there is, without a doubt. Without a doubt. That
does that surprise you that some husband is trying to induce an abortion on his own wife, his own pregnant wife?
No, excuse me, that doesn't surprise me at all. Excuse me. We live in a world where where the value of life is minimal, and if we have to get rid of a life to promote our own agenda, then that's what people do. So no, I'm not surprised at all about this. Didn't the FDA just approve last year some sort of morning pill, some abortion morning pill thing?
I don't know. I mean,
I'm sure he did his research on how to induce that, and there you go. I think it's.
But now, Phil, this guy is an attorney. This guy's obviously, I know how much you love attorneys. These are well-educated guys. What's going on?
Okay.
Phil, the smart people do dumb things, Phil? Have you ever found that?
Of course they do all the time. Of course they do.
Oh, wow.
But I've said it before on here. I'm with and this will get them going. I'm with Bill Shakespeare. First we kill all the lawyers. So there you go.
There you go, William Shakespeare. Look, by the way, the doctor weighing in. That's
William Shakespeare for all of you folks that may have been raised in public school education.
Look at this. It's misoprostol. It's given to people in early stages of pregnancy to induce contractions, and abortion. Look at this. Carm has a word for everyone. Carm, the
Okay.
star of the show, the cult of personality. Here she is.
Hi, STS family. This is Carmela from the House of Hits.
That's our
where
recording
we are
studio.
recording the audible version of the book, and we just found out that you can get a signed, personalized hard copy of the book from signedsurvivorbook.com. Signedsurvivorbook.com.
She was reading the sign I put over Bugs's, the COE's head. She was looking up over her head. I'll play that one more time just because it's adorable that my mom, she took instruction. She's in this gangsta rap studio, House of Hits, doing the audiobook. Scott Duffy, oh man, I got to get going in a second. Jesse Alvarez is charged in the 2021 murder of Mario Fierro, a Catholic school teacher. He was engaged to a fellow teacher, Amy Gambara. Now, Amy used to be the boyfriend of Jesse Alvarez. Jesse Alvarez didn't like his ex-girlfriend having a fiance. So he Googled, how do you kill your ex's fiance? Smart thing to do if you want to kill your ex. So he Googled, how do you kill your ex's fiance? He also did searches for how do you hire a hitman? Another search was, how do you kill someone with a handgun? And the last search, Scott Duffy, was, how do you delete your Google search history? He went and killed this guy in his home, and he had learned about the engagement on Facebook. Now, he says that he acted in self-defense, that he just went over to speak to the fiance. They got in a fight, and then he had to shoot and kill him. He is now facing a life sentence if convicted. Does this surprise you that someone could be as dumb as this to Google, how do you get rid of your Google searches? How do you hire a hitman? How do you do all of these things? Scott Duffy, I assume you're going to say no to this one.
Yeah, no to this one. This one I've seen quite a bit. And the fact that he said, how do I kill my fiance, my ex? Did he say my ex's fiance? As opposed to how do you kill a guy? How do you? And then
it was very specific. It was very specific to what he was trying to do.
And then how do I lie to Phil Waters? How do I get away with it? That would have been what nailed his call.
It was.
Well, you know his story, right? He got on the stand and testified.
Ooh.
Oh, did he? I didn't know that.
Yeah, and he's blaming it on the fake psychological ADHD stuff, and that he was just so overwhelmed by his breakup and this and that, and he just couldn't pay attention about stuff, and he got overwhelmed himself, and now he's doing better and all this other stuff. But he got on the stand and tried to explain. You ought to watch the testimony because it's really hilarious. And then he claims, so he laid in wait for the fiance to come out, and he claims that he was protecting himself because the fiance attacked him in some way. So he's claiming self-defense of some kind.
COE, could you translate this?
That technical term that we would use in homicide, he's a nut.
Carmela, KBN Verla Asi de Bien SR. What's SRA? Carmela. COE, can you give me a translation on that? Carm is the star of the show. This show is start. I have to get to the UFC. I'm getting nervous. I get more. You know what I do? I go up to fighters and I'm like, my kid's in jiu-jitsu, which he isn't yet, but he wants to be. And I'm like, my kid's in jiu-jitsu and he really wants to take a picture with you. And I blame it on my children. And then I get to take pictures with fighters. I had problems. This next story here.
Push your kid out of the way and take the selfie.
Yeah, 100%. This is a dad was Phil. There were questions earlier about this lunatic Stephan Sterns, but here you have a dad, a father. He's got 12-year-old girls sleeping over, and it turns out he's drugging the children with mango smoothies. One of the girls didn't want to drink it, so she said, "No, I'm not having it." She did not pass out like the other kids that he was going to take advantage of, and was smart enough and had a good enough head on her shoulders to text the mom. This guy he was putting benzodiazepine in their mango smoothies to obviously try to take advantage of them in some kind of untoward manner. And and this guy was arrested and charged. But Phil, the bigger picture, we just talked about Stephan Sterns. Now this dad who's got a sleepover for his daughters doing this, but is there any way to like spot these guys or anything you can do? Or what do you say to parents who are worried about their kids having this done to them?
Well, it's, gosh, you got to do the research. I even asked my daughters, when they have, some of their kids, my grandchildren, going over for sleepovers or whatever. And I always ask them, do you know these people? Do you know the parents? What do you know about these people? It's the world we live in. I just, this guy, I guarantee you, he'd have gotten a serious chat. That had been my daughter. We'd have had a chat.
Scott Duffy, have you ever been to a witch doctor?
I have not.
You have not. So there's a witch doctor in Georgia, and when you look at him, he's not a pleasant. You saw. This is where I just don't understand. So his name is Hassan Shalgin. He's 45 years old.
Of course it is.
He was advertising that for $1,500 he would be able to cleanse you spiritually because he's a witch doctor. And of course, a woman answered his ad and went over there. And when she did that, he noticed he had a gun, and suddenly he took that gun and held it to her and said, "I'm going to have my way with you." And after he was arrested by the Duluth Police Department, 4 other women came forward. But Scott Duffy, my question to you is, who answers ads for witch doctors? Not only does that, but then gives a guy $1,500 to be cleansed. Obviously, what happened to them is horrific. But have you ever interviewed someone for your line of work where they have conned people as a witch doctor?
Not as a witch doctor, but as I've had a few cases where palm card readers were definitely taking quite advantage of people.
Yeah. Look at this. Joel, my great grandpa did that. Went to a witch doctor and it cured his cancer. That's what he told me to do if I ever get cancer. He lived in 104. I don't know. I mean, Scott, Phil, you're part Native American. You've got Cherokee blood in you, and I believe in what these Native Americans believe in. I'll tell you that. Phil's shaking his head. Wildfire goes, wow, just $1,500. Last story, going to depress everyone. I'm forewarning everybody. It's animal related. A lifelong bird, and it's in Florida. A lifelong, well, I'll tell you afterwards. A lifelong bird and animal lover, a woman named Tracy Frampton, always got a kick out of the pelicans that she saw whenever she and her family would visit the Florida coast. We see them all the time here. There's some beautiful creatures. They're comical birds, she says. They're so odd shaped, but they're so elegant when they fly. They fly a foot above the water. I mean, they literally go up and just drop down and catch fish. How they do that, I don't know. But what happened was suddenly 27 pelicans were found with broken wings. And she said to myself, there is something going on here. She has now started a Facebook page to alert the public. They believe, as has Fish and Wildlife, they believe that someone is going out and breaking these pelicans' wings. 24 of 27 all had the same exact fracture, and 11 others died from similar injuries. Bill Waters, is there a serial killer out there who's getting his thrills breaking pelican wings, who has not become a serial killer yet, but will eventually? Catherine, don't leave us. We're going to be off it in a minute. She says, I'm out of here if it's animal abuse. Phil, what the hell is wrong with people? I mean, what's wrong with people? To break
They're
a
disgusting,
pelican?
aren't they?
Yeah. I mean,
So I hope this guy gets found by some pelican lovers and maybe performs a service on one of his wings.
Scott Duffy, does it surprise you that someone is breaking pelican wings? I mean, that's as demented to me. That's as demented as it gets.
Yeah, I mean, it's in the same realm. To hurt, maim, kill are vulnerable. It's these beautiful creatures that doing nothing to hurt anybody, and then somebody takes pleasure in especially that many. So it is a sign of something much more, and it's not just it's there is somebody out there, or I would venture to say somebody as opposed to a group. I'd be very surprised that many. Is this over a period of time, or
Someone
were
says
they
it's
all
got to
found in
be
the field?
over a short period of time, I think. But someone says it's got to be a fisherman. I mean, I don't even want to think about it, but the thought of doing that to a pelican is just. I mean, I know we talked about Ned Smith said, I don't understand. We're so outraged about this, but we were talking about Maddie Soto. There is something about the innocence of animals and horrific. Why I brought that up at the very end, I'll never know, but I'm here in Florida, and let's listen to Carm one more time and then we'll get final thoughts.
Hi, STS family. This is Carmela from the House of Hits, where we are recording the audible
gangster
version
rap
of the
album.
book. And we just found out that you can get a signed, personalized hard copy of the book from signedsurvivorbook.com. Signedsurvivorbook.com.
Some of you might be wondering how I'm recording 307 pages. It is it's taking a lot of years off of my life, but it'll get done. Bill Waters, you're a man of incredible discipline. I assume it's going to be hamburgers on the grill. Your plans for the weekend, your final thoughts, Bill Waters.
It will be. It will be. And I would just, we always, the topics are just always very disturbing and upsetting. And I'm just hoping and praying that Scott and I can offer some objective insight into these topics that we discuss, and that maybe we can offer some encouragement to those folks that are out there, that these folks that are doing these things are getting caught and will be held accountable for what they're doing. It's just we live in a fallen world, and it just seems to be getting more depraved every day. But I know where our hope lies, and I just would encourage those folks to carry on and do whatever makes you joyful. Do those things. Enjoy your family. Enjoy those relationships that you have with other people that mean something to you, and try to end on a positive note every day. I know it's tough to do, especially in the line of work that Scott and I have been in, and even today in the things that I'm doing in the private sector. It's people still have the same kinds of problems. So, and I would offer this too. I think Scott and I are here if there's anything we can do for you to help you along in your journey. Reach out to Joel, and I have had some people that have contacted me through my company and so forth and so on, and it's a blessing to me to be able to share with those folks and listen to them and hopefully give them some encouragement. So I just hope everybody has a great weekend, and keep looking up.
I love it. It's almost like you can't even say anything, but I do have to say, I finally stumped Scott. Sarah Adams says, Scott is killing me. He's like, today was really bizarre. Scott, I never thought I'd surprise you with a Joe Rogan guest carrying a head in a bucket. I thought that was something you saw every day in your career. But why was that? I still don't understand why that surprised you, why that got you.
I don't know. I I would say that if somebody spent a, a good part of their life in jail for something they didn't do, I get the, you know, I get the arguments about the justice system. It's rigged. It's this. It's that. And I get the anger, but then to all of a sudden just do everything in your life that's totally counteracts that argument, and I'm like, that stumped me.
I'm thinking that was there before they were ever wrongfully convicted.
Yeah,
It just took 25 plus years to manifest itself.
I think he missed prison.
Did he bring the head to Joe Rogan's show? I'm just trying to see.
Imagine if he did that. It was in his backpack the whole time. That'd be incredible. Sarah Adams says, 3 men confusing each other. This is beautiful. Yeah, I have to say, I really love these guys, though. I really do. And that's why I will continue to send Phil photos of, I'll probably see 47 Ferraris. I'm going downtown. So could be a record-breaking day. Phil's photos will go from 1,000. By the way, I think I have 40,000 photos on my phone or close to that. Scott Duffy, do you know how many photos you have?
Oh, yeah, I did see somebody say 15,000. I think I was looking for something, and I will transfer them often to. I have this. I don't know what it's called, but I can download my photos so I don't lose them, and I don't want to cloud a computer because computers die every couple of years, and so I have what looks like a thumb drive, and so there are tons and tons of photos from the day before the day my kids were born to my current day. So we're
so disorganized, and it's annoying, but the COE and I are disorganized, and there's so many pictures. I have no idea where they are. But anyway, everyone, thank you so much. We're going to be following the Madeline Soto case very intently. Sunshine in Arizona says it. Have a nice weekend, everyone. Love you all. See you next week. I'll give you the shakalaka from Bill Waters. Free nugget.